Marty, it's been a minute.
Yep.
It's been 7 days and so much has happened. Hey, guess what? You know what? People don't want to have an election further out because, or they don't have it. Well, the conservatives want it soon because the popularity of the carbon tax. Did you hear? Did you hear?
Yeah.
The carbon
Well,
tax is becoming so much more popular that if we have to have an election now for the conservatives to win, because if it happened in 2025,
yeah.
they're all gonna, everyone's gonna be like, no, they'll get rid of the carbon tax that we love.
So are you going to surprise me with? I've seen a lot of quotes. You're not. Yeah, if you're going to try and surprise me with Melanie Jolie, I've seen that one. So
No, this is a good
oh,
one. This one
okay.
here, we got Duclos and Guilbeault talking about how that's exactly why the conservatives want the election coming up this year, is because if it happened next year, the carbon tax it'll be shown. Oh, let's just listen to what they say.
Ask about carbon pricing. Now, the one reason for which Pierre Poilievre might want to have an election very soon on the tax and carbon pricing is that he's starting to feel the change in Canadians' understanding of the great value of that carbon pricing. Now, ask about carbon pricing.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up. The great value of that carbon pricing, Marty. You know, it's just about to kick in.
Liberal mental gymnastics should be a sport. It should be a sport. Like it's amazing that, like that is wow. Like, yeah. So what's he saying? Well, that's funny because on the one hand you have that story, but I'm pretty sure on the other hand, this week the Liberals are still talking about trying to rebrand the carbon tax and still, they're still whining that Canadians don't understand it. No. We understand it perfectly. I mean, I just got my gas bill and there's $38 for the carbon tax on it. Like it's black and white. I can see it. It doesn't need to be explained. It's money coming out of my pocket. That's it. I know what it is.
But you're going to get a rebate, Marty.
Yeah.
What about that rebate?
Oh yeah.
It's going to be more. It's going to be more than $38, and not to mention all the other economic activity. The price of your food going up.
Yeah,
it's totally gonna compensate for that. It's gonna compensate for the price of anything that has to go on a truck.
Just let me keep my own money. Thank you very much, and you can keep the rebate. And actually, I did a story one time on the definition of the word rebate and the definition of the word refund and another one. And a rebate, if you think about it, a rebate is actually giving you money back when you paid too much. So it is the correct term, and it is what they're doing. You collected too much and they're giving you a little bit back. Like it's not a refund, because a refund would be giving it all to you. So when they choose the word rebate, they're very specific. It has a very specific meaning. Like, yeah.
I see what you did there. But guess who's not buying it? Members of the Liberal Party themselves. Because they're filing out. This is the crazy thing. Yeah, maybe not the name brand Liberals, like the people in the cabinet, but 5 chiefs of staff set to leave the Trudeau government. This article is touting, which I have archived here just in case they just decided to change their mind after the fact. But yeah, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is contending with an exodus of senior staff, just as the majority Liberals are returning to a precarious position in the House of Commons, having lost the automatic support of the new Democratic Party. That's it.
Yeah,
5 of the 38 ministers are losing their chiefs of staff.
Now, what they don't say in the story is some of them are just going on to other jobs in government. Actually, I guarantee you, almost all of them are going on to other jobs in government. But yeah, I mean, it's been another. Boy, he's got a lot of staying power, eh, Trudeau? I mean, it's because this has been another bad week for him. I mean, he lost. Jagmeet ripped up the supply agreement, like you said. He's tanking in the polls. I think he's going to lose. He's got 2 by-elections next week. On Monday, there's 2 by-elections. There's one in Winnipeg, and there's one in, or not Winnipeg. There's one in Manitoba, and there's one in actually in your neck of the woods. I think there's one. I can't remember. Anyways,
well, there was one in Nanaimo. That's where that conference was, where they were talking about the carbon tax and how popular it is.
But he's lost his own campaign manager. He doesn't talk about that very much, but his own campaign manager wrote a letter last week, saying you're not going to win and I'm out of here. And then he's losing those 5 guys. He's probably going to lose another election.
But he's not going to have that election until
Right.
2025. He's securing that absolutely because, well,
Right.
even if he doesn't have the support of from Jagmeet Singh, he's got the new. I think they're changing their name from Bloc Québécois to Bloc Élection. It's they're stopping any election from happening anytime soon. Yeah, the Bloc Québécois is ready to extract gains for Quebec in exchange for supporting the Liberals. That's right. Peanuts. They're begging for peanuts from the Liberal Party, and they're gonna get their bit. And this guy very, very happy to jump on board with this one, sell out all of Canada, and largely happy to see another election.
Yeah, and again, it's strategically, it's very, very short term thinking for the Bloc and for Trudeau to do that. Because I mean, immediately as soon as I went on the news, did you see anybody make a positive comment about that? Nobody. I mean, there might be the odd Quebecer who's happy about that, but everybody else in the rest of the country can see what, that's just two self-serving guys. One, the Bloc Québécois, self-serving for their own interests, and Trudeau. At this point, anybody who doesn't see that Trudeau is just doing everything in his own power to stay in power, he's just clinging to power, right? I mean, he sent Melanie Joly. She came out of the, I think they're in your neck of the woods this week, right? I think they had a retreat in Halifax last week. That was the whole caucus. And then this week in your neck of the woods, it's just the ministers. Then he sent out Jolie, and she's on stage and saying, Canadians don't want an election. We've traveled the country all summer long, and Canadians want us to govern. No, we don't. Yeah, that one. Oh, play that. Please play that one.
Canadians don't want elections. They just want us to do the job. They just want us to govern. And that's what we're doing. We're governing. Canadians don't want elections.
They've been governing for some time, and Canadians are tired of it. In fact, that's what's being said here. This is from CVTV News Montreal. Nearly half of Canadians want federal election after NDP Liberal agreement ends, a poll suggests, and it's a majority. A number of Canadians here. It says following an announcement, the end of the NDP Liberal confidence and supply agreement, a new national survey reveals 47% of Canadians would support a federal election, while only 34% would prefer not to. So what Jolie's saying is she's only talking about the 34%. And then it goes on to say about the possibility of who's going to win. More than half of Canadians, 54%, said they believe that Pierre Poilievre and his Conservative Party would win the next federal election, in comparison to only 15%. Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party. So I'm guessing of the same respondents, that 34%, they know that they don't want an election because they know that their party's going to lose. They're in that 15%.
I mean, remember the last election in 2021 during COVID? Nobody wanted it, and the Liberals put us in an election, and now everybody wants one, and they're not putting us through one.
And they don't want it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and I think that wasn't that the point of that election? Because it came so quick. It was 2019, and then it was 2021, and then the whole point was to stretch it out. So they knew that a lot of unpopularity was going to come with their policies that they were about to push. And let's make it so we won't lose our seats for a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me right now, it would be funny, but it would be a real dick move for Trudeau to call an election to rub it into Jagmeet and make Jagmeet fight for his seat. Because if Jagmeet, if there is an election called tomorrow, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at Trudeau being that shallow. Call an election tomorrow, and that jeopardizes Jagmeet's seat, and it jeopardizes his pension, and it also jeopardizes the pension of several of his MPs. So could he call an election to make his MPs quote unquote work a little harder? Who knows? I mean, it's turning interesting quickly. We had a pretty quiet.
He's not going to win.
No.
Trudeau is not going to enter into a situation where he's going to come out not victorious.
No, I'm just saying do it as the same reason. Move. Yeah.
For the same reason he wouldn't come out of the cottage when the truckers came to Ottawa. Yeah. He's not going to engage in something that he knows is going to be a losing battle. He just won't do it.
Totally. But for me, the more interesting question this week now is I think we've been speculating about Mark Carney for a couple of months now, actually longer than that. I think I had Mark Carney tweets going back to November 2023. So about a year now, we've been speculating that Carney would step in. He stepped in officially in a role now. I mean, Carney, the cabinet met in BC somewhere, and then Carney was put on display, and it was announced that Carney has a role. What the hell is his role? I don't know. Like he's a special advisor to Trudeau. So
just listen to what he has to say. I mean, just listen to this.
Listen.
And let me start by saying it's an honor to accept this role as chair of this new task force on economic growth for the Prime Minister, for the leader. It comes at, in my view, a decisive time for our economy, for our country. The world is becoming a more dangerous and divided place, and at the same time, the global economy is being transformed. Every major economy is accelerating their energy transition, and being low carbon is becoming a key driver of competitiveness. We're just at the start of a revolution driven by AI in every sector, every economy, every company. We can no longer rely on the world's rules-based trading system. We have to become an essential trading partner. We can't win an industrial policy arms race. And in all of that environment, we have to grow, both in the short term and for the long term.
Who does this guy sound like? Who does he sound like? Put a big German accent on that.
Well, yeah. No, we'll get to that. Officially, he's been actually. Let me say who he sounds like. He sounds like Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction. I'm Winston Wolfe. I solve problems. Like he's the guy who knocks on the door when they got the dead guy in the car, right? He's a cleaner. Yeah. He's a problem solver, and that's what he is. Absolutely. I mean, Mark Carney hasn't worked in Canada for almost 20 years now. Like he's been on the UN boards. He's on the board of directors of Brookfield. He's been on some weird committees of the WEF. Like he was on the Bank of the UK as their governor over there. So he hasn't lived in Canada in almost 20 years, hasn't worked here. And suddenly it's like, oh, Trudeau needs a hand. If he truly felt that way, which happens once in a while, then Trudeau, every prime minister gets letters once in a while from people saying, hey, Prime Minister, here's an open letter. I think you should consider this. So if he was really concerned, he would have stepped in like 4 or 5 years ago. But yes, somebody at the UN, no, you're right. Charles Schwab tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, Klaus said, all right, Mark, come on. Like, we've given that guy over there too many chances. He's screwing up. Go in there and clean it up.
I'm not kidding. Like, ideologically, he's absolutely in line with Klaus and the World Economic Forum and all of this stakeholder capitalism, DEI,
transition to green.
Yeah, it's really a transition to red, the Iron Curtain. That's what's happening. And it's crazy. Listen to some of this rhetoric. Because it's identical. It's the same thing as Mark Carney said.
In terms of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, cloud computing, advanced robotics, and many others, together constitute a new phase in human development, on par or even exceeding previous industrial revolutions in scale and impact. COVID-19, if anything, has accelerated this ongoing industrial revolution. If COVID had happened even 10 years ago, we could not have imagined moving entire companies, schools, and government offices so fast online.
Do you imagine? It's so funny because this guy was so quick with his book, COVID-19, the Great Reset, that it was already published when the pandemic happened. Like this is the kind of stuff they've been waiting for a disaster to implement this stuff. This is their whole concept of AI being this new world industrial revolution is the same people that thought when the agrarian revolution during the industrial revolution happened that people were going to be useless eaters and there's going to be dead people everywhere because there's going to be no jobs for them. Well, guess what? That's not what happened. No. It's not how it went down, and it's not the way it's going to go down for these people.
And he's a pure, I guess he is an academic. I mean, he's a pure academic. Like, he has no background in this. Like, he's not, like at the let's a similar conference, a similar organization in 1910 would have featured like Nikolai Tesla and Henry Ford and people like that on stage talking about the next industrial revolution. Cool. Those are the guys who are in the moment. If I wanted somebody to lecture me on the current industrial revolution, I'd want Steve Jobs on stage. I'd want Elon Musk. I'd want those guys who are creating that revolution, and I want them talking about it. Schwab is just some freak, man. He's just some psycho with a really bad motive who's pretending that, hey, I've thought about this. You're talking out of your ass, man. He doesn't know.
It's not even a new idea either.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
His whole cultural revolution or industrial revolution. It's just Marxism plus robots.
Totally.
That's all it is. It's really sad to see him touting this as if it's his own work.
And then back to his golden boy now, so he was proud of Trudeau. We've infiltrated whatever governments around the world. He was proud that Trudeau was one of his young proteges. So now that didn't work. So now he's putting an older protege. He's used up. So he's going to put Mark Carney. And now Mark Carney, all sorts of videos are coming out on Mark Carney. I mean, Mark Carney, he was in front of committee a while ago with the whole a while ago, like 5-6 years ago, around TMX. I mean, he was there like opposing Trans Mountain, opposing. But then we find out he's the chairman of Brookfield Corporation that owns pipelines in Saudi Arabia and pipeline here. And when you ask him, he's got all sorts of excuse where, oh yeah, well that's necessary, but that's, like they have excuse. And for the average common man, no, they're not excuses. You're a hypocrite. You're blocking Canada's energy development and you're promoting it elsewhere. And it's just making you richer. Like this was one of those weeks for me. It was one of those weeks actually where the bad news got a little bit overwhelming for me. Like we even had bad news in here in Alberta. The Coutts verdict came out, which I was unhappy about. I'm unhappy about some of the things that's going on with Danielle. I'm unhappy about the Bloc. I'm unhappy about some of the comments Pierre's made and everybody else. And I'm at that, like, this week for me was one of those points where it's like, I don't want any incumbent politicians. Like, I don't even want anybody who's been in opposition for the last 20 years or 10 years. Like, I don't like, this week I lost faith in Pierre. I'll say it on camera. Like,
what was it?
It's a variety of comments, and it's a variety of comments, and it's lack of comments. Like, it goes both ways, right? Like, Pierre can blame Trudeau for the trucker convoy. It's all around the trucker convoy and Coutts and freedom, right? So we're all saying that not enough politicians came out, and I'm like, exactly, not like,
yeah,
they didn't come out, and so Coutts is over right now. The verdict is terrible. I disagree with it, but and Danielle's not speaking up. Trudeau won't speak up.
Liberty-minded people around the planet came out in support of the truckers. People on the left and the right. People like Russell Brand was ecstatic about it. He's famously on the left. Tons of people on the left were coming out in support. So it wasn't a partisan thing, but they turned it into this partisan thing. And the Conservatives, they just hands off. They wanted to be
and so for me, hands off is just as bad as anything. Like, just ignoring it is bad. Like, you're in opposition, that's not an excuse. You're still a member of the government, and you could have still said something. So
it came up this week in conversation for me as well, because I was talking with Camille El Sheikh. He's the guy who organizes the Hands Off Our Kids, the 1 million person March for Children.
Yep.
And last year, when Trudeau and Jagmeet, they came out condemning this and called them a bunch of names, called them racist, called them all kinds of things. And Pierre just sat on that until there was enough pressure from the right to say, you got to say something. And then he came out, he said the right thing. He said, Trudeau shouldn't be calling these people names. They're just parents that are standing up for their children. And that's right. But like, why wait? What exactly. Is this? What's this hesitance? Are you are you representing the people, or are you just waiting to see what the polls might say?
Yeah, step in and create dialogue. You don't have to step in on one side or the other, but step in and create dialogue and be what we want from our politicians. So yeah, no, I mean, there was one there. It's been a tough week. I've been disappointed, but there was a few bright moments in the week. I mean, one of the bright moments for me yesterday was Donald Trump, watching Donald Trump.
Well, we'll get into that.
We'll get to that one.
Yeah, because I want to get to this because you brought it up, and that's of course the two men in Alberta that have been sentenced to 6.5 years, and this for me it's quite egregious because for one, they were not found guilty of the charges that the government wanted them to be found guilty of. With
Correct.
all this, I don't even know what you describe it as. It's just been a tremendous injustice in Canada. Being held. I mean, how do you even describe this? So four men, it started off with 4 men being held and charged with conspiracy to commit murder.
Charged with something really, really bad. Like, they brought, apparently they brought guns to a protest and they were going to kill cops. Okay. So
that's what the story is. And then we start hearing what the story actually is. Doesn't look like it actually was a conspiracy to do anything. And then they were held without bail for the entire time. And the reason for the bail, there's actually 2 main reasons why you would be held for bail or without bail. And that's if you're a flight risk or they think you're going to reoffend. And they didn't fall into any of those categories. They fell into a third category, a tertiary grounds, they call it. And that's where it could bring disrepute to the judicial system if they were left out or if they were let out on bail. Meanwhile, murderers, rapists, all kinds of offenders, violent offenders are let out all the time. But these guys who are given these an
guys
accusation
who
of conspiracy
for the most part
to do
had
something they
nothing.
didn't do.
Yeah, for the most part had no previous any kind of criminal records, nothing like that. Some, they're typical guys. A few of them, they're like, one guy had a bar fight somewhere and a little mischief here and there, but nothing.
Well, of the two that got served in this, only one of them had a charge, and it was as a minor for having some drugs. That was it.
Exactly. Stuff that most courts, most judges will look at that, and then you're released on bail. But held without bail and then denied what I would say is a primary right in this country to an expedient, pretty rapid trial, right? I mean, like the trial, we're talking 2.5 years later. So so they and all the heavy accusations, none of them are proven. And in the end, the government
they were found not guilty. Here's the thing: they were found not of that charge, the conspiracy charge. What they were found guilty for. One man was found guilty for mischief. What does that mean? Who knows? Everyone's got a different definition for that. So you're basically Dennis the Menace. That's what you got charged for. And the other charge, one man was charged for illegal possession of an explosive device, which was actually a device that was in a box that was given to him by his father, his late father, and it was, he didn't know it was in there. It was just like a blasting cap or something, and it was put underneath the stairwell at his house. And they searched everywhere, they found that, and they made that charge. Yep. And that was the charge. The other charge for the other man was, and this is the one that really irks me, because he was nailed with the mischief charge. But the one that irks me the most is what we were talking about last week. We were talking about your right to defend yourself. So what he had said to an undercover police officer is that if he was to find himself in a situation, he would defend himself. He would defend himself with his firearm. Yeah. Now, that is a crime in Canada, to have the intent to defend yourself with anything.
Yeah.
And this is, I really have to draw this one.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like we talked about.
If you have this, so this is dog spray, right? I can go out on the trails and I can have this in case a coyote comes after me or my kids. Absolutely. That's my intent. If I were to say that my intent was to defend myself against an assailant, a human assailant, it would be illegal for me to possess it. Just on those grounds. It is a crime.
Yeah, and
that's what he was charged with.
Yeah, and the case closer to them would be like me and you and I talked about this last week, right? I'm on the record as once having said that I would defend my house using a shotgun. So now, if 10 years from now somebody comes on my property and somehow or other in the altercation I used my shotgun, they'll go back through my records and they'll go, 10 years ago, Marty, you said you would use a shotgun to defend yourself. You just did, and that's yes, and that could be used against me. So, anyways, it's egregious. They got 6.5 years for. Well, what's unfortunate is 2 guys got 6.5 years. 2 guys plea bargain. Now that's how plea bargaining works, right? Plea bargaining is the government says, here's what we're offering, and it's a better deal. Obviously, the guys who plea bargain got a better deal because for almost the same charges, they're gone, whereas 2 guys are facing 6.5 years. Now, because of time served for various things, the 6.5 years, they'll only have to serve 2.5 years. Praise, prayer and fingers crossed. And again, let's see how egregious the courts are here, because in most cases, if you do end up in jail in this country, you seldom serve more than 40 to 50% of your term in jail because you get paroled. So because they've already served 4 out of their 6.5 year sentence, they're eligible for parole. And again, I mean, bad guys don't even get jail. People with first degree murder get paroled after 40% of their sentence. So if these guys are forced to serve the 6.5 years, my God, like that's, yeah. And so this was a bad day in Canadian history. It was,
Yeah.
And I said it. I've talked about this with a lot of people. I hang out with people who've been there many times. You have too. I mean, you've hang out with Alex, the amazing Zoltan, and some of those guys.
Yeah.
But
I had him on the show this week to talk about it.
I think basically the Crown didn't want to lose this one, and then pulled the nastiest trick out of their bag, which was to threaten the judge by saying, "We're going to appeal this no matter what. We're going, unless you give him a 6.5 year sentence, we're going to appeal it." And our appeal is going to be on the grounds that not that the jury got it wrong, but that you, the judge, got it wrong. You didn't instruct the jury properly. So the Crown basically threatened another member of the Crown, and I think the judge caved in this case. It's to me, it's black and white, and it's sick, and it is sick. And it's been 3 days now, and we still haven't heard anybody speak up on it. Like. Here in Alberta, I want Danielle to speak up on it, or Mickey Avery, or Solicitor General, but nobody's spoken on it. Nobody wants to touch this one. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's all sorts of interesting things still to happen now that the trial is over. The gag orders get lifted, so now we're going to hear more about what actually happened. I'm still curious about that envelope with the.
We ought to know what's in that envelope.
Yeah.
And that's really it. There's speculation that it might tie this case all the way up the chain, all the way to the Prime Minister's office. And if that's the case, Canadians need to know that.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll see. Yeah, bad day for those guys, but a bit of closure, I guess. It's there's not a lot of ways to spin this one in a positive way. There just isn't.
Yeah, no. Did you hear? Okay, moving on. Did you hear that? What was it? Cat Canada is suing Mark Garrettson. Did you hear?
Oh, that's fun. Well, not Cat. Her boss, Keen Bexley, right? The Cat works for Keen now through the Counter Signal, or what's his company?
Counter
called?
Signal, yeah,
that's
right.
So the Counter Signal is suing. Yeah, and actually I had people. You and I are almost implicated in that, because I could share it with you. It's because it's that hilarious. But people shared the We Unify, the conference that you and I went to, the We Unify conference, had a picture of Lauren Southern on there, right? And Lauren Chen,
who never showed up.
And so Lauren Chen, is she the founder of Tenant Media, or one of the founders? Or
Lauren Chen and her husband are, and they're looking like they're in some pretty hot water. And I'm not sure what their motivations were there.
Sure.
All I know is, okay, so for people who don't know the story, let's get into this.
Let's get into it. Sure.
So Tenant Media, it was founded by Lauren Chen and her husband, and she had done some articles and whatnot for Russia Today, RT, before, I think it was before they were ever a contentious thing. U.S. has been cracking down on propaganda, yet Russian propaganda and all this stuff. Turns out, so she founded Tenant Media with the backing of what she was telling people was this, philanthropist entrepreneur guy from Tennessee. Turns out, no, it was actually 2 Russian nationals. Now, the indictment doesn't get enough into it, so we really know if they are like Kremlin source people or anything like that. But it was held back. That information was held back from all the contributors to this Tenant Media. They were told a lie, a fiction, that it was this other American guy who was funding the whole thing. And this is what's great. This is where it gets crazy. The amount of money they were giving to these content creators. So like, and these are creators that we know. Lauren Southern was part of this.
Tim Pool,
Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, a number of people were a part of this. Matt Christensen, I've been following him for a lot of years because he comes out of the skateboard world, for liberty more, oriented kind of guy. And but then they were offered like more money than you would ever think you would be offered for these videos. And it was really just stuff they were already making, and they were just licensing it to this Tenant Media that was barely getting any views on any of these videos.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
They're getting like 50 to 500,000 views, which is nothing, right? I mean, you get 50,000 views on a video routinely. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm not a billionaire.
Yeah, you take that. Yeah.
And I'm not putting money behind this.
But they weren't being offered billions either. I mean, it was a reasonable amount of money, but not. But anyway,
no, some of them were making 100,000 per video.
Per video. Oh, okay, that's pretty good money.
Per video. Yeah, I don't know if so I don't know who. I think it was some of the bigger names they were making that kind of for $400,000 a month for a guaranteed 4 videos. So do the math. That's a lot. It's crazy. And now what people are speculating is that this is some sort of honeypot to knock out conservative influencers during an election cycle with some Russia conspiracy thing. I don't know.
Well, it's a distraction. I mean, we also know we have Chinese influence on our politicians. Absolutely. Russian influence on content creators, bad. Chinese influence on politicians, good. But
the crazy part is like these creators and the indictment on Lauren Chen and her husband states in it that that none of them knew that it was Russian influenced. Right. They were just getting checks to do what they were doing. Right. This is why it sounds like a honeypot. It sounds like one of those things. You take the money, and then later we're gonna have a October surprise for you, where you guys are all bad guys, and we're gonna lose your credibility.
I mean, heads up, right? People know this. I mean, you and I make a few bucks on our YouTube videos, and we make a few bucks on our Twitter, and we make a few bucks on other things. It's called being monetized. Yeah. I've never actually looked to see where my YouTube money comes from. Maybe it comes from Russia. I don't know. But back to So
Mark Garrettson.
Hang on, before we get to Mark Garrettson, like I said, I had people come after me because I'm associated with you started with Cat Canada, right? So Cat Canada's name came up. You and I have met Cat. We met her in person at the We Unify conference. She helped with the We Unify conference. Anyway, somebody sent me that. So like, what do you have to say to this, Martin? Like, as if I'm supposed to explain myself, because they sent the poster of the We Unify conference and they circled like Lauren Chen, Lauren Southern, and Marty up north. I'm like, fuck, that's awesome. Like, okay, but guilty by association. Sorry, guilty by and I was going to defend myself. I'm like, I don't need to, because people who truly know you and I, here's Marty, here's Marty, ripping the Fram filter that he changed the oil in his 2014 Jetta. Dude, if I'm making $1 million a year,
who knows? Maybe Fram will denounce Marty up north for showing that.
No, but I mean, I pride myself on
ties. And that's the question. So how many degrees of separation is there? And even though people are unknowingly part of this honeypot, or what seems like a honeypot to me anyway. So
So back to Kat and Mark. Sorry. So Mark Garrettson. Yeah, you take it away from there because it's your show. You know the story, but show some.
So Mark Garrettson made an accusation of Cat Canada being part of this Russian collusion, or made the insinuation on Twitter, and then blocked her. And well, she's also a reporter, so she's there's a contention of you can't block reporters as a government official.
But let's give a bit of context on who Mark Garrettson is to the viewers, because they might not all know. Mark Garrettson is a piece of work. Like, he's the MP for Kingston, the Islands. He's been an MP for about 15 years. Never made it to any ministerial position. I mean, he's been a perpetual backbencher. He's an absolute lapdog. Like, he's a mouthpiece on Twitter and in the House of Commons. He's annoying as shit. And he has a gray check mark on his Twitter account. He turns off all comments. So all he does is yap, 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 yap. Doesn't allow us to comment back.
Yeah.
And he picked a fight with Kat. And he did two things in that fight that are completely out of character. One is he blocked her. He's never blocked anyone. He hasn't even blocked me. And boy, I'm on his case all the time. So he's like, he lives for this, right? So the fact that he blocked Kat was impressive. And the second thing is he deleted a tweet. So the tweet of where he made the accusations of her, he had to delete it because Kat works for the Counter Signal. Is that what it's called? She works for Keen Bexy.
Yes, the Counter Signal, yeah.
The Counter Signal, right? So she works for the Counter Signal, and then he came to her defense and is like, we're going to sue. So they didn't quite sue, not quite in the style of Ezra Levant.
Well, let's get into it. Okay, I got the video right here. Here it is.
Justin Trudeau's deputy government House leader, Mark Garrettson, has crossed the line, and now the Counter Signal is lawyering up to defend me, a journalist, against his baseless, bigoted, and vindictive allegations that I'm a Russian agent. Let me make one thing clear. I'm not. I'm a single mother working tirelessly to hold Justin Trudeau accountable for his disastrous record. And because I'm effective at what I do, Garrettson made me a target. He lied about me and used his position to call for me to be subpoenaed by Parliament. But we're not backing down. We're not letting one of Canada's most notorious Liberals drag my name through the mud simply because he doesn't like the truth. Neither I nor the Counter Signal have ever taken a dime from Tenant Media or the Russian government. These accusations are not just false, they're reckless. The damage caused by Garrettson is serious. He's used his position in Trudeau's government to attack me and, by extension, the Counter Signal. We're one of few truly independent outlets in Canada, refusing federal money so we can bring you the real news about Trudeau and his government without fear. And Garrettson hates us for it. In an emotional outburst, he made a dangerous mistake, and we will hold him personally accountable for this. Garrettson will almost certainly use government lawyers to defend his indefensible actions. We don't have endless piles of taxpayer cash to light on fire, so we need you to stand with us while we take Garrettson to court. If you stand with us, please go to suegarrettson.com to donate to our legal fight. That's suegarrettson.com. Thanks.
So that is a bit in the vein of Ezra Levant there.
Yeah, it's in the vein of the Ezra Levant, but they're giving him a chance. So they actually, if you find...
So here's the explainer. So Liberal MP Mark Garrettson accuses Cat Canada of being paid by a foreign government specifically to engage with him. He learns that he's getting sued, deletes the post, and then says he didn't accuse Cat Canada of being paid by a foreign government to engage with him. This is Mike Campbell reporting on this. And so this is his tweet. He says, where is it? If I finally block someone here, I draw the line at foreign government paying you to engage with me. Parliament needs to study this, and this person needs to be brought before a committee to answer questions. That's a direct accusation. That's not some...
She should have gone. I'd love to go to committee. She should have accepted. That would have been awesome.
That would have been great. But here's Mark Garrettson afterwards. He blocks her, deletes the tweet, and then says, okay, my language has not been that clear. I find that Canada's content to be divisive, alarming, and deeply offensive. The progress the press progress report of the video of Katrina with Lauren Southern and press progress report of the videos aligned connection to Russian influence campaign is deeply alarming. I'm not interested in interacting or amplifying that kind of division. So I'm going to be blocking Katrina because of her connection to that mess. I'm not alleging that Katrina herself was paid by the Russians. Sorry, buddy. You already did. You already did. Correction. And this is him stating a correction. But yeah, the lawsuit's already in place. It's already happening.
Well, so the lawsuit, like, yeah, it's similar to Ezra, but there's one step before the lawsuit. So before the lawsuit, Keane put something nice on Mark. He basically sent him a letter with things. He said, you know, I won't sue you if you apologize, you know, do this. And one of the things he's asked Mark to do was to unblock Katrina. I told Keane, I said, you should do one more thing. You should demand that Mark Gerritsen not turn off comments on his tweets. But anyways, so Keane's got a countdown. It's been almost a day since he sent that letter. Gerritsen hasn't done anything. So if Keane is true to his word, then he will sue Gerritsen, you know, tomorrow. I mean, he gave him a fair warning for now, but hopefully he does sue him. And a couple more things. First of all, I do like what Kat said, right? I agree. Like, the Rebel News and like you and I are independent, but the Rebel News and the Counter Signal and Northern Perspective and a few other places, like organizations.
Northern Perspective is another new YouTube channel. Yeah, I think you're thinking of True North.
True North. You know, there's a few organizations like that are a little bit bigger and independent and are not taking money from the government. She's absolutely correct, and it's annoying the Mark Gerritsens of the world. And to Kat, we joked about Keane and Kat, like, were they working for Trudeau when he caught him off guard on the beach? Is she work? And the answer is no. I mean, the answer is no now, unequivocally no, because in fact, this week, Kat had a great video. She cornered, she went to BC, wherever the MPs are having, or the ministers are having their conferences, and she cornered, like, what's her name? Freeland again. And because remember, Kat had that picture of her on the plane, and everyone's like, oh, you're working for Freeland. But no, she cornered Freeland, and as soon as Freeland saw her, like, she scurried. So obviously, so Kat, Keane, keep doing what you guys are doing. It's awesome. Like, it's
cool.
I
mean, there's definitely a place for that kind of media. There's got to be people out there doing the scrums. I mean, this used to be how journalism worked. You catch people off guard, you confront them for things that they've been doing wrong, and you let them answer to the public. But
Gerritsen's a piece of work, though. I mean, Gerritsen, for the viewers, just for the viewers, right? So I'll weave a story, but Elon Musk studied in Kingston very briefly. Elon Musk is actually a Canadian citizen, and he actually studied, the university in Kingston is called Queen's University, and Elon Musk studied 1 or 2 years there at Kingston. And Elon Musk said something, and not to Gerritsen, not to anybody in the world, but Gerritsen thought it was appropriate for him to come out and say that Elon Musk was a stain on Kingston. Can you believe that? Like, that's what, I have that tweet. I cut it, I kept it. And that's the caliber, that's how low in the mud that Mark Gerritsen is. Like, he called Elon Musk a stain on Kingston. Wow. Like, he should be, Elon Musk should get the Order of Canada, as far as I'm concerned. Like, he'll never get it because he's not, that's reserved for Theresa Tam and people like that. But
well, then it's not a very worthy prize at all. Fair enough. Yeah. But I think there should be a push. I think maybe we can even get the popularity of this happening. Perhaps there could be a bill in government to say that anyone who has a gray check mark cannot block people, cannot turn off the comments. That just should not be an option. I should be held accountable.
I made that request. I did that request formally through my viewers. I asked. I actually made it. I picked one of Mark Gerritsen's tweets one time that was super offensive, and I asked everybody to report it Hundreds of people reported it. Nothing happened. And I asked everybody to report it and to also share it with Elon with that request, that very simple request, that a gray check mark. By the way, a gray check mark is paid by you and I, right? Because a blue check mark, so some politicians have a blue check mark, which means technically it's their account. But some, Mark Gerritsen, as an example, has a gray check mark, which is a check mark you get for being a politician. And a gray check mark, I will dare say, is paid for by taxpayers. And so,
or an official capacity thing like CTV or CBC has CTV should have a gray check.
They have, I've never actually paid attention who else has a gray check mark.
CBC does. CBC does because they're a government agent, or at least I think Elon made that happen at one point. Maybe they took that away. Because do you remember the contention over CBC being government funded?
He put a label on them that they were government funded. So, but I think it's fair because when a politician like Mark uses his platform as a one-way tool where he's screaming and we're not allowed to reply, then to me that's propaganda. That's not it can be argued that he's using it like a newspaper, but even a newspaper, folks, I had the ability to write a letter to the editor and make my thoughts known on a piece. So Mark is turning off all comments, which is unfair. So anyways, we'll see how that goes.
What a lot of people are commenting about right now, and because we promised we were going to get into this, is the debate with Trump and Kamala. It's the only one. It's the only one that's going to be happening. And then people vote. It's normally you have several debates. There'd be one with ABC. There'd be one with CNN. There'll be one with NBC. But no, we're getting one debate. Yep. Trump and Kamala, because largely she's not prepared. In my personal opinion on that one.
I watched it all actually. I like the format. I watched it all. I don't know. You probably didn't have a chance to watch it all because it was on at this time yesterday, and you're probably making a video. But
I had to watch it after the fact. I didn't watch it
live. Oh yeah. You watched it. I did
watch it. Yeah.
I like.
What was your take on it?
Well, I agree with most people. I thought it was 1 versus 3 for Trump. I mean, Trump was.
I was just about to say that. That's exactly what I said in my tweet here.
He got fact checked a bunch of times.
Interesting watching Trump debating against all three of his opponents tonight, because that's what it was. It was the fact checking, keep coming back at Trump, but never fact checking Kamala for any of the things that she was lying about.
Yeah,
in her bit.
When I watched it sitting down with my wife, which is interesting because I was looking at her reactions, and if you listen to both of them, what I was trying to do, because I've heard everything they have to say, but at one point I was fascinated and I was watching sort of both of their body language and what they were saying and how they were saying it. And one of the things that's apparent about Trump, and I tweeted about this morning, is that he actually stands for something. Not like, so you might not have to agree with it, but when you're watching him and you listen to him, it's obviously stands for something. And I like that. Me personally, I like somebody who stands for something. I hate people who stand for everything, because to me, when you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. So yeah. Trump stands for something. Do I agree with everything? No. But he at least stands for something. But one of the things I really like about, like yesterday, he kept saying, like, if I'm elected president, before I'm even sworn in, I'll have peace between Russia and Ukraine. And I look at him and I go, you probably would. He probably would. Like, that's how he is, right? Like he'd pick up his speed dial and say, I want Zelensky and I want Putin here now. So he stands for something. But the other observation I made is, I call him Trump 2.0. He's definitely not as abrasive as he used to be, and hopefully they learned a few things from Trump 1. And if he wins, we'll have a Trump 2.0, because I really do.
Those moments are there. The moments do exist. And there was one. Oh, yeah. There was one last night. I got to showcase this one because this is just great.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
And ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals.
What did you do? What did you tell the
Oh yeah, I can't even show
Well,
that.
no,
But
and
that's
just go back a little bit. Look at the look on her face on that one. Like when right there, like she has no choice. She knows he's telling the truth, but she has to put on this smirk of like, oh my god, you're
so
exaggerating.
for people that are like they've been under a rock in Springfield, Ohio. There have been reports of migrants eating people's pets, like
And
catching,
geese.
killing, and eating people's pets, ducks, geese,
In the ponds, in the
dogs, all of
parks.
that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there was one video, like it's so blatant, but I mean, you don't know where it's coming from, but there was a video where somebody like, yeah, that lady, that one was weird, but there was another one where they're sitting around a park somewhere and they're making a little fire and they're cooking something. And I'm no expert, although I know more about game than most people. And what they're eating is not a freaking, it's not a steak and it ain't a squirrel. It's something, you know, it's got 4 legs and it's about this big. Like, I don't know. Like
Trump now is the savior of all of these animals. All you got to do is look up Trump cat, and you'll see all the AI of him saving cats from people.
Oh, I think that was the video of the people, the one before that. No, that's not the one. But
no, it's not the one.
AI is
It's
getting
people
crazy,
reporting
eh?
on it. Oh, AI is getting. Some of these are just too much. It's great. There's Kamala saving a duck and a kitty. Welcome to a beautiful
I like the
Ohio.
one. There was one where it's the cats had make America great again, and then they're all armed and walking, and like that was a good one. AIs, yeah, those are good. They're all good, man. They're all good.
Oh, it's amazing. It is amazing.
I don't know where they're doing that on. That's not done just on
Grok. Grok
do you think
is
Grok
pretty
can do
good.
that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Oh, have you seen some of the threads I did with Grok?
No.
Oh yeah, especially go check out. I was on Sean Newman's podcast. We were talking about Grok, and I did this whole thread with Curious George because it told me I was chatting with my daughter, and she's like, "Oh, can you make some funny images on Grok?" I said, "Okay, what do you want?" She said, "Curious George." Okay, what do you want him doing? And she said, "Shooting a gun."
Oh, okay.
And Grok said, "No, I won't do that.
I won't do that." Like if he's got, so Grok has enough tweets on a subject like President Trump or Justin Trudeau. If you ask Grok to do you running with cats, it won't be able to find enough source material of you to give a nice image. So it works well for very popular. I mean, you showed it last week, right? The one of Trump and Elon Musk dancing to the Bee Gees. Hey, we're running out of time. I can see the clock ticking. Let's do one last feel good funny story before. Find that thread that I posted at the top of my tweet there, the one on reading the kids. Speaking of your daughter asking for an image of well,
this is coming from the National Review. This is the professor says, if you read to your kids, you're unfairly disadvantaging others. That's right. We should all be neglecting our children. That's the recommendation.
That's the extreme. It's an extreme example of pushing this whole privilege to a whole new level, right? Like you and I are super privileged. We get to come home at 6 o'clock, have dinner, and then we have enough time left at the end of the day that we can read to our kids. We're more privileged than somebody who has to work 15 hours and doesn't have a chance to read to their kids. And so that's what this prof was making up, this bullshit story that we are unfairly not advantaging our kids. That's not even what they're saying. Read the headline, right? We're disadvantaging somebody else now. It's not.
So this is covered up. I'm not sure why on the thing, but at a University of Warwick in England, parents who read to their kids should be thinking about how they're unfairly disadvantaging other people's children by doing so.
Yep.
In an interview with ABC Radio last week, philosopher and professor Adam Swift said that since bedtime stories activities do indeed foster and produce desired familial relationship goods, He wouldn't want to ban them, but that parents who engage in bedtime story activities should definitely at least feel kind of bad about it sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah. Basically, it's like so the teacher, when your kid goes to first day of kindergarten and already knows how to count to 10, and somebody else's kid, that's what they're saying. You're gonna disadvantage another kid who will not be able. It's a stretch, man, but it's out there. It's the world we live in. It's the world we live in.
I don't think parents reading to their children bedtime stories should constantly have in their minds the way that they're unfairly disadvantaging other people's children. But I think they should have that thought occasionally, he said. But Swift also added that some other things parents do to give their kids the best education possible, like sending them to elite private school, cannot be justified in this way. So he's outright saying that we should ban people from sending your kids to a good school if your government school is not doing a good job.
We were going to talk about DEI, but we'll save DEI for next week. I mean, this is an example, right? The diversity, equity. That's that keyword equity. It's not equality. It's equity. I can't remember what it means. Like it's an equality of outcome, right? It's
equity is like, yeah, everybody gets the same outcome. But in order to give some people, the same outcome as others, because some people will be just incapable of it, period, you have to chop other people down. And that's the problem. It's the lowest common denominator. And this is what we're advocating for? Are we going to have a society that sends rockets into space? Are we going to have a society that has satellites and communication networks around us if we continue to go down this path? Because we're not going to have any of those things. If we can't even read bedtime stories to our kids, it's unbelievable.
Well, my next one are grandkids, and I'm reading bedtime stories to my grandkid when I have him. So yeah, that's the week we just had, man. Another crazy week. It's going to get crazier now because summer's over, so it's going to get crazier.
Where can people find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter, and actually Marty Up North on YouTube. Go and look at me on YouTube, folks. I haven't had I need a little boost on YouTube, so send a few viewers my way. Come say hi and give me a little subscription. And but otherwise, yeah, find me on Twitter, Marty Up North.
Links in the description down below. We'll do this again next week.
Cheers, my friend.